welcome to today's video.
My name's Imogen and this is the story of how I fell in love with cycling. I first decided to start cycling in March 2017. I really hated exercise and never imagined I'd want to do anything, and the last thing I could ever imagine was myself wanting to ride a bike. But one day I woke up and I just decided that I should go in the garage and get out my dusty bike. I don't really know what it was that made me think this, but I for some reason wanted to. As you can see, that I sort of dressed in whatever I had, so I just had t-shirts and leggings on, nothing really fancy. I didn't look the part. I was only riding a Trek hybrid, so it didn't really matter what I wore, but there was just something that I liked about it. So I started going about a 3 or 4 mile loop and stopping regularly, struggling to keep going. Like I would stop every few miles, every few meters, depending on what the surface was like. If it was uphill, I would struggle completely and have to walk. But there was always something I really loved about it. I just loved the sense of freedom, the fact it was me that was making the power to keep me going. And the more I did it, the more I improved and started to build on my distances. I eventually upgraded my lovely Trek called Sally to a beautiful Genesis called Jerry, which was after the Ginger Spice, obviously. This is where I started to improve more and more. We decided to have a go at a local Audax, and this was the first time I realised that I didn't actually need to be embarrassed about wearing lycra, because all the time before that I'd been wearing lycra shorts with leggings over the top of them, and then this was the first time I felt like I could actually take those off and just go around in my lycra shorts. I know that I'm not exactly the skinniest cyclist that you expect to see, but I felt comfortable. Everywhere we went, we took our bikes with us. We had to go with our local club, but I found it too hard. Not necessarily the cycling, but more the social interaction, which sounds so silly when you think about it. We did try a sportive, and then a few months later, I did start to feel a bit lower, and I started to become depressed and struggled to go out with people who weren't my partner. I'd feel sick at the thought of just having to go out, and I just didn't really know why or what was wrong with me. So I started to get some help, and Lee helped support me the whole way through it. And I found out that I was suffering with social anxiety. It was in such a bad state where I just didn't want to do anything. So I decided that I should do something by signing up for my local breeze ride, which was going to be in February. Unfortunately, the day before the breeze ride, I lost my granddad. It was very sudden and we never expected it to happen. I hadn't experienced that sort of pain before. I really didn't want to go. I came up with every excuse that I could think of, but in the end, Lee talked me into going as he knew it would help me. And it would help me in just more ways than my social anxiety, but also with the loss of my granddad. It was really hard to do, but not because of the difficulty of the ride, but just because I was going to meet people I didn't know. I did manage to bring one of Lee's mum's neighbours with me just to keep me company because I knew her, just so I didn't feel as scared. As I had lost my granddad the day before, I did feel quite lost, but on the ride I saw a white butterfly and that made me feel like he was with me. I felt like I was in the place that I belonged and I wanted to help. I wanted to join in and do more. Going on these rides proved to myself that I could talk to people and I could do things, so I signed up to become a ride leader. It felt the right thing to do because I wanted it so much and I was just so excited to have a positive thing to focus on. I kept trying different distances and pushing myself more and more, and then I started going along to the club's beginners rides because of I'd been wanting to do it for ages. But now that I was going through therapy for my social anxiety, I decided that it was the time that I needed to promise to myself that I would go to every session. The first few weeks and months were quite hard, not because of like the riding or anything, but because of the people. And I didn't want to miss any unless it was a real reason, not just an excuse. The more I went, the easier it was to talk to people, and I started to find myself making friends that I never imagined I would be able to do. It made me feel so proud that I was actually able to go along and talk to people. I do find that cycling isn't always about sunshine and smiles. There's lots of tough times where you feel that you want to give up and give in. But I've proven to myself that I can get through these times and keep going. The times I've felt that way, they always end up being the most fun and memorable adventures. But I never even remember the tough, hard times, only ever the fun on the adventure. Eventually, British Cycling asked me if I wanted to become the new area coordinator for Breeze in Cornwall and Devon, which I happily accepted. It felt like such an honour. Over my time since I started in 2017, I've had such an amazing time, met lovely people, and done so many things I never imagined I would. I've even entered time trials, which I never imagined it would be something I'd want to do because I was so anti exercise. I was also nominated for 2 awards, which I was so surprised with because I just felt like all I was doing was going out on my bike with other ladies, so it didn't really feel like it was that much of a big thing. My bicycle has become my happy place. It's the place I like to go when I've had a bad day. It takes me all over the place, and I hope to take her one day on long adventures around the world. This is the story of how I took up cycling.